Okay. So now I understand why they use the word antibody. Because I'm like, these antibodies, it is very confusing because when you're using antibiotics, trying to stop an energetic feeling of a virus coming in and doing whatever, and then people use so many antibiotics and then they end up passed away. You're just like, what the hell? And then you hear about, about my whole take on the whole cancer stuff and the spirit. This is where we're going to merge in the religious or religion and the spirit world and science. And then you look at the different deformities in these babies that modern medicine and lab get to, and allow the autonomous being to perpetuate. And so you're just like, well, Jillian, modern medicine has allowed people, a lot of different innovation. And yeah, absolutely. I'm all for innovation, and I'm all for all the different gene banks that we have for different specific capabilities. And yeah, okay, fine, turning hormones on and off and opening up capillaries, closing capillaries. But there has to be a point of there has to be a boundary. There has to be a line somewhere we draw. And then why are we scared away from salt? Because I've been dealing with all these different viruses, and guess what? I'm releasing all the excess that would have turned into cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Because when you figure out that mucus, like a whole bunch of mucus that coagulates in different parts of the body, that is like another entity. That's another spirit in your body. So if you have different lumps and you're living with different lumps, and some people like laugh in their dreams, and they're like my husband talks in his dreams. And I know he has different stuff going on, and he's not doing the JJus, and he's a big dude. And so, I can only imagine how many spirits and different entities that he talks to at night. Okay. I mean, that's the thing, is that then we have to understand that, yes, antibiotics are great on one end, and they can make you strong because you're a positive, and then the antibiotics are a negative, and they take away the entity that's trying to take over and make you stronger. But again, it's a careful balance. So antibody isn't necessarily against your body, it's against an invading body. However, yet again, you don't want to kill life that's in your body that's merging with you. You want to assimilate, and then you want to kick out the demons. This is where all of the allegory and the Bible and all the spiritual stuff and all the different ascension stuff and all the horror movies and the Catholic Church and the Greek mythology and all the Hindu religion, I'm sure even the Quran and mysticism, and then biotech and mysticism and the pagans and the Celtics and all the stuff that we've ever heard about. There were monsters way back when they were putting everything together, whatever civilization started our civilization, they were putting stuff together and doing stuff and testing this out and testing that out. And I'm sure there was, like you've seen in that picture of that baby, and there's different babies with the two heads and the two entities fused together. I mean, that's, when you think about it, that is what cancer is. First, you grow your own cells. If you can't grow your own cells, then it's fertilization. You have a parasitic baby. Well, not really parasitic, but you have a baby. You have reproduction. Okay, you can call it a parasitic entity. Professors got a backlash for calling children in the womb a parasitic entity, but essentially it is. Okay, but it's in the proper place that we're used to, called a womb. All right, fine. Then if you don't have a baby and you don't want to have a baby and you're not lengthening your telomeres, then there is the cancers. There's the carcinomas, the sarcomas, carcinoma, teratoma, sarcoma, myeloma. Okay, all these different cancers, whether in the blood or in the bone, whether in wherever. Then those are the parasitic qualities that then eventually turn into its own entity if you allow it. See, that's. So then you hear people talk about they have teratomas, where they have the cancer, the tumor with the eyes and the nose and teeth and all that. You're like, holy shit. But that's the thing, is that then when you see things that happen, that's why they do all these ultrasounds on new mothers, to make sure that there isn't that another entity, unless like a twin and they split apart and then they're two separate entities. But when you have other things go on, and that's when they do the surgery. That's why neonatal surgery and all that stuff happens, and they test the amniotic fluid to see if there's different stuff. I mean, science and the hospital system has their own ways of figuring out how to make sure that there's one autonomous type of being versus like two fused together. And you've heard about the conjoined twins, and you've seen that. Okay, and so this is why it's very difficult to talk. I can't talk, or I don't say talk, but very difficult to figure out how I'm going to position this information without coming off, again, one-sided. Okay, and so I know even the science world, they know this too, and that's why they're probably going like, okay, we're not sure what to think of Jillian at this point, because there is a careful balance. Antibodies is really warding off any invading spirit. Like, remember when I had my computer and I was doing videos for my computer, and you could see those little bubbles that had its own energy that was floating through and going in really fast and going out really fast? Those are the things that are invading. That's the spirit world. The orbs, that's the spirit world. If they had enough energy, they could project an image that you could recognize. But if you have enough, if you have different technology and cameras and things like that, and EMF detectors, then you can actually see the different, you can see sort of the energy that it's projecting, even if it's a weak energy, and you can see kind of the outline, and that's what the ghost shows do. They can measure the energy of the dead, and that dead, that's why some of these people are susceptible to the spirits, because the spirits already sense that person's at a deficit. And that's the whole thing with the exorcism, right? Casting out the demons. And is it as exaggerated as watching The Exorcist? Well, I'm sure, you know what? If modern medicine wasn't around, and if salt wasn't around, we'd probably have a lot more exorcisms going on. But people, there is a reality behind that. I now understand the reality behind that, and why the scientific names like antibodies and antibiotic, and it's against life, but you're like, well, we don't want to have another entity growing off the side. That's what the salt is. The salt is where it calms down the energetic growth in your body that's more than your body. So it calms that down like the vampires in the salt, and then it allows your body to strengthen, to kick out that stuff, to kick out that excess entity. And that's why the sodium chloride is used as a cancer cure if you directly target that specific region. But the reason why they don't advocate in the medical system drinking large amounts of salt water, because then other issues would come up that people don't want to deal with or are ready to deal with. And if that were the case, then the whole system would be down, because then people wouldn't need the medical system. They would just do a bunch of saltwater flushes, purge out the demons, eat some food, and you wouldn't need biotech to go and commandeer. But again, if people do that, then they become infertile and cured, and then they're not innovating and advancing humanity and having babies that are the stronger prototypes. And so that's why I'm just like, oh my God, once I figure out the name, the antibiotic name, okay, so we have to go through this type of cycle, and we have to see the monsters in our society. And it sucks. We'll see the most extreme monsters in our society. We'll see the nicest people in our society, and all points in between. You're going to see anger because people don't understand. But there is such a balance, and there's such a juggling act with the medical system, the holistic system, with so many different people. And what do you do? Well, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you what to do. We need people out there who are leveling up. Okay, and they may be one single entity with some advanced information that they're not actually accessing, but they hold it, but they're just a carrier. And I'm going to have to get exposed to them and level up. And so there's going to be sacrificial lambs in our society. That's what I figured out, is that for me to level up, I'm going to have to be around people who are carriers of so many different types of innovation. And even though they don't want to feel their own innovation, and they're taking all their different antibiotics and not staying like, not reversing their aging process, and they're breaking down. And when they're breaking down, their DNA is then dispersed. It pixelates, and then I'm breathing their pixelation in, taking in the innovation, merging with it, yes, having a few reactions, but then I'm getting leveled up. And so I'm actually feeding off the people around me in a really indirect way. It's a trip. And so I'm just like, And so then, you need to have the people who are innovative, even though they're not really innovative in the sense that you think, like they're not like Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, right? They're just your regular neighbor who's just a carrier of innovation. And maybe they might be going to working at a gas station or something. Bless their heart. Okay, maybe they are a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer, but they're carriers, and maybe they don't want to deal with that stuff, and they just want to be looping in whatever they're doing on a daily basis. And so as they're breaking down and their innovation is being released, I'm going to breathe it in, I'm going to get upgraded. And that's kind of the careful balance. That's what human sacrifice is. I mean, there's the extreme side of way back in the Aztec days, and then there's the medieval times, and then there is the virtual sacrifice, which is the cancel culture and the attack culture and all that. And then we have people who are given the choice. Here, okay, here's a virus. We're going to put, patient zero somewhere and have so much innovation. It's going to go and edify. People are not going to survive. Some will, some won't. Some will be carriers. We're going to have the therapies to then go and innovate it even more and make it stronger and stronger and stronger. But again, the weak are not going to survive. The stronger will get stronger. And everyone's going to be given a chance to either level up and assimilate or just therapize themselves out of existence. And that really is a fair way to give people the opportunity. But it is energetic. And then, of course, you're going to see all the activists and the instability, because whenever you're going through a major transition, just like when you're purging with J-juice, it's going to suck in the beginning. No different than right now, we're seeing a lot of activists, a lot of global unrest, rumors of unrest because of the inflation, the gas, the food, all that stuff. And this is going to be interesting. And so me trying to write about antibodies and antibiotics, and then not coming off, again, biased, but understanding that, yeah, you take on another entity and you're not doing jelly juice or any kind of salt, higher sodium diet or annual saltwater flushes, and you haven't purged out. And if you're not doing the medical system or even the holistic system, and these entities are growing inside of you, yeah, it'll be cancer. Because if it'd be like another being, well, you'd know it, or maybe you wouldn't. Some people do. That's some pretty rare stuff, because of people's practices in the medical in their health field. So if they would have grown some entity like that actually had like another eye, I mean, you'd know if you'd have another head coming out, okay? But it's the entities that grow inside of them, and that's the cancers, that's the disease, the chronic illness, and people who carry lumps in their body that they're just living with. It hasn't turned into cancer that they know of. It's not energetic, but it's still a spirit. And it still drives their dreams. That's why people talk in their sleep. That's why people have weird dreams, because there's things inside of them that are invasive, but they haven't taken over per se, but they are part of that person, the devil and the angel. Then you have the whole MPDs too, okay? And they also deal with a lot of those viral demons inside. That may not be like cancerous per se, but it's the split personality because of the amount of trauma the person went through that caused the extreme amounts of viruses with their own personalities to really speak to the person. And the person changes their persona. And they could have like 15 or 16. So that's what I'm saying. The viruses are the MPDs. Viruses are the entities that are what the antibiotics are for. But you still need to merge with them, but you don't want to take so many antibiotics where then it destroys you. You want to take enough, which is really your environment and your food, because there's antibiotics in your food too. I mean, you have some of the spices, you have your live food, like your fermented food, like the jelly juice or any kind of fermentation, and then you have your fruits and your vegetables and all that, and then you have your salt and your whatever and your water, and you have maybe a little bit like pepper and garlic, and so that's a little bit of the antibiotics that have to kind of keep things in regulation, and then once a year, the purification. Because that's where all the voodoo comes from. You know, all the witch doctors. That's where all of that stuff comes from, because they know that a human who's left unchecked, okay, could be taken over by crazy ass spirits. But where do these spirits come from? Well, look at people around you. Some people are very extreme. And when someone's so extreme and they're dropping their stuff on you, that could invade somebody and commandeer, and then you have a mixture of personalities, and then those personalities turn into then one personality, and it could be a mixture of a bunch of stuff. It could be very extreme, like Charles Manson and his charisma, or it could be someone like, a Hollywood actress that's channeling something, and channeling a goddess like Aphrodite, or channeling someone that's like a dictator, or scientist, or an architect, or who the hell knows? There's so many different, 16 different personality types are a conglomeration of viral personalities that has been programmed into the population. Okay? And so then it gets so freaking deep. Then I'm just like, oh my God, I think I have it. And then I'm like, God, I don't have to understand the antibiotic side of it, and then the antibody. Why would they call a virus an antibody? Like, why would you have antibodies? Why would you have this anti your body? It's not anti your body. It's anti what could be a body, a parasitic twin. Okay, so sometimes the words are telling you the end result. Just like with when I show the JJ saltwater flush on my pinned post, people think that's what you just have to do, is an annual saltwater flush, like right now, and they haven't kicked out like a bunch of the demons in their body. No, that's the end result, is that eventually you're going to do an annual saltwater flush after you've initially recalibrated your body. You've purified your body, so to speak. And so when they talk about the word antibody, it means eventually, yes, the point is that you don't want to grow a parasitic twin and be a two-headed beast or have cancer, okay? But remember, antibiotics will only make the things stronger and redouble its efforts. Because antibiotic resistance is when that entity inside who wants to live will find a way to strategize and hide from the antibiotics. Look what you guys are doing. What we're doing, we're strategizing our way around to the medical holistic system. We're using the salt, we're using the water, we're figuring out our sphincter, we're doing the purging for a certain amount of time, and then we're staying off the J juice, and we're eating food, and we're dealing with stuff. And so you see us sidestepping certain intentions, certain speculative intentions. Okay, so then how is that any different than something inside of it trying to escape something that's trying to kill it? You see me strategizing my way with the whole Jilly juice. When everyone's trying to attack me, and I'm here putting blocks here, and two-factor authentication here, and protecting here, and having this. So anything that wants to live is going to find a way to live if something is actively attacking it. And so then you have to finally come to terms with the new viruses in your body, and merge with them, and then you work collectively together, and then you become stronger, and you're symbiotic, and you're smarter. Because I'm telling you, when you think about it, when you're working collectively with people, if that was what you want to do, two heads can be better than one if you actually are on the same page, but that isn't always possible in this society because of so many different things going on in people's worlds. So then when you think about it, all the viruses from other people's immune system is like having 3 trillion heads instead of one. And that's a lot of intelligence a person can gain and perpetuate and sustain and be like really amazing in what they do if whatever they put their mind to. And so that's the deeper version of what's going on. And that's why I had to put those pictures of those babies, because you had to see what the antibiotics were for, and what the Jilly juice can potentially mitigate that excess energy, which is another fused parasitic personality. That will cause confusion. Like again, the Garden of Eden, I'm sure, was full of different monsters that we see all over the fantasy world. No, that's probably some true stuff. That's why modern medicine had to be what it is. But then when you have 7.9 billion humans and you've exhausted the petri dish, and now they're just acting out because there's no more innovation left, and they're resisting, and they don't want, and there's just too much innovation and people can't handle it, then you got to do a whole reset and throw away the petri dish. But you can't really throw away the baby with the bathwater, so then it has to be a very gradual, controlled type of population decline. And that exhausts me when I think about how I'm going to write that. All right, bye.